Most people are afraid to be alone. Why? Because when the crowd leaves and the noise fades, you're left with the one person you've been avoiding, yourself. But let me tell you something. Being alone is not a weakness. It's a superpower that most people will never unlock. Ladies, let's break a myth right now. They say you need someone to complete you. I say you need you to complete you. There's power in eating alone. There's power in sleeping peacefully without anxiety. There's power in choosing solitude over shallow company. You see, being alone doesn't mean being lonely. It means you're finally ready to meet the woman behind the mask. The one who doesn't fake laugh. The one who doesn't shrink to fit in. The one who doesn't beg to be chosen. Solitude builds self-respect in a way no applause ever can. See, when you're constantly surrounded by people, opinions, noise, validation, you start to live through their lens. But the moment you sit with yourself in silence, something shifts. You stop asking the world, am I enough? And start telling yourself, I am. Let me give you an example. You walk into a cafe, and there's a woman sitting alone, sipping her coffee, smiling, not on her phone, not pretending to be busy, just sitting there in her own calm. Some people look at her and think she's lonely. But you know what she is? Unbothered. That's the kind of power solitude gives you. You stop performing, you stop proving, you stop begging. When you spend time alone, you finally hear your own voice, without it being drowned out by a million others. And that voice, it's powerful. It tells you when something doesn't feel right. It reminds you that your worth doesn't come from being liked, but from being you. Authentically, unapologetically, radically you. A lot of people stay in toxic friendships or relationships because they're afraid of solitude. They fear that empty bed, that quiet room, that Friday night alone. But here's the truth. It's not the solitude that's scary. It's the mirror. It's facing the truth of who you are and who you've been pretending to be. And that confrontation, though painful, is what sets you free. You start realizing that canceling plans because you'd rather stay in and do something for yourself isn't selfish, it's self-respect. Saying no to people who drain your energy, choosing silence over small talk, and choosing growth over gossip becomes second nature. You don't care if they call you too much or too distant, because finally, you know your own damn worth. Think about this. You have a phone, and it's always connected to Wi-Fi, always receiving updates, notifications, messages. Eventually it overheats, it slows down, it needs a reset. That's you, constantly connected to people, energy, drama, expectations. Solitude is your reset, your system update. And when you come back, you're not just better, you're bulletproof. There's a story I love. A woman was married for years, always doing what her husband wanted. She dressed for him, cooked for him, lived by his schedule. One day, he left her. Just walked out. She was shattered. But instead of running to fill the silence with another man or more chaos, she sat with herself, took solo trips, learned photography, danced barefoot in her living room. Now, she doesn't need anyone to validate her existence. She knows who she is, because she met herself in that solitude. And what she met was a queen. People will test your boundaries. They'll try to guilt you for wanting space. They'll call you cold, distant, arrogant. But here's the kicker. You don't shrink anymore. You don't explain your solitude like it's something to be ashamed of. You wear it like a crown. Because once you realize that your own company is enough, no one can manipulate you through loneliness. You learn to take yourself out on dates, to sit at the edge of your bed and speak to yourself gently, to cry without hiding it, to laugh without an audience. And suddenly, you're not afraid of being left. Because you've stopped leaving yourself. You stop begging to be chosen in rooms you don't belong in. You stop answering texts from people who only reach out when they need something. You start giving the same energy you receive. And if that leaves you with fewer people around, so be it. The ones who remain are the ones who matter. The rest were just noise in the background of your becoming. Self-respect isn't built in the spotlight. It's built in the shadows, in the moments no one sees. In the early mornings you get up just to sit with your thoughts. In the walks you take without your phone. In the nights you cry and then get up, wipe your tears and whisper, I got me. And that's when the magic begins. Alone time is clarity time. It's the space where the fog in your mind finally clears, and the truth you've been avoiding starts to whisper, then scream. Most people run from alone time because they're scared of what they'll hear in the silence. But that silence, that's where answers live. Not in another opinion, not in another conversation, not in another distraction. The clarity you're searching for is already inside you, but you won't find it in the noise. Imagine this. You're scrolling through social media, switching between 10 different thoughts. What to wear, who to text, what they meant when they left you on read. Your brain feels cluttered, your heart confused. You ask, why am I so lost? But when's the last time you paused and just sat with yourself? Without a screen, without someone else's voice drowning your own. You can't make life-changing decisions in chaos. You can't choose your future with the opinions of 10 people ringing in your ears. That's why alone time is sacred. It gives you perspective. It strips the world away so you can finally see what you want, not what you were programmed to chase. Picture this, a woman sitting by the ocean, no phone, no companion, just the waves and her thoughts. That's not loneliness, that's clarity. That's the moment she decides she's tired of pleasing everyone but herself. That's the moment she realizes she's been living by default, not by design. And it's in that stillness, in that quiet heartbeat between waves that she says, no more. You don't need another night out. You need a night in with yourself. You don't need a new relationship to get over the old one. You need to sit alone and ask, why did I tolerate that? And when you do, the answers start coming. You realize you weren't asking for too much. You were asking the wrong person. You realize your overthinking isn't anxiety, it's your intuition screaming through the noise. There's a reason why some of your most genius ideas hit you in the shower, in the middle of the night, or during a long walk alone. That's not a coincidence. That's clarity breaking through when the world finally shuts up. A friend once told me she went on a solo trip to a cabin in the woods. No Wi-Fi, no signal, just trees, books, and her. She thought she'd go crazy, but instead she met herself for the first time. She journaled, she cried, she forgave people who never apologized. She admitted truths she never dared to say out loud. She came back glowing, not because she found someone, but because she found clarity. And that clarity turned into confidence. Sometimes clarity comes in the most unexpected moment, like standing in the kitchen making tea, and suddenly realizing you've outgrown your job, your circle, or even your partner. You realize your soul is starving while you're busy entertaining chaos. That's not a mental breakdown, that's a spiritual awakening. And it only happens when you finally choose to be alone. Every queen you admire, every woman who radiates power, it's not the makeup or the money. It's the mental clarity behind her eyes. She's not confused, she knows who she is. And that knowledge, it was born in solitude. You start to separate what's real from what's fake. You realize not every text needs a reply. Not every invitation deserves a yes. Not every opportunity aligns with your purpose. And when you finally see that, when the haze clears, you start making decisions from a place of truth, not trauma. You realize your time is precious. Your energy is sacred. Your peace is expensive. And if it costs your clarity, it's too damn expensive. Because clarity gives you something no one else can. It gives you back to you. In a world that's constantly yelling at you to hustle, to chase, to prove, alone time becomes rebellion. It's the place where you drop the armor, take off the mask, and look yourself in the eye and ask, what do I really want? And for once, you actually hear the answer. You heal in isolation, not in chaos. Healing doesn't happen when the music is loud, when the party is on, or when you're drowning yourself in distractions pretending everything's fine. Healing is not glamorous. It's raw, uncomfortable, silent, and slow. And most importantly, it requires space. Emotional, mental, spiritual space. That space isn't found in the arms of someone new. It's not found in 100 text threads or motivational quotes. It's found in isolation. When you pull back, shut the door, and look at your pain straight in the eye without flinching. You don't put a cast on a broken leg and keep running. You stop, you sit, you rest. You allow the bone to align again. But emotionally, we try to skip that. We break inside and then distract ourselves with noise, fake smiles, temporary highs, shallow validation. But the truth is, you can't skip the process. You've got to sit in the stillness long enough for the wounds to speak. Think of a woman who just walked out of a toxic relationship. Her friends say, go out, forget him, flirt with someone else, keep yourself busy. But her soul whispers, come home to yourself. So she stops, she takes time off, she deletes his number. She doesn't numb it, she feels it. She writes, she sobs, she breathes through the memories. And slowly, without anyone watching, she starts healing. Not because someone saved her, but because she chose herself. Chaos is the enemy of clarity, and without clarity, you cannot heal. You end up repeating the same cycles with different faces. You run from one heartbreak into another, thinking time will magically fix it. But time doesn't heal you, intention does, silence does, solitude does. You've got to sit with the pain until it teaches you what you needed to know. Ever notice how people go on retreats in nature when life becomes too heavy? It's not because mountains or oceans have magic, it's because those places offer isolation. A reset from the overstimulation of life. In that reset, emotions bubble up, memories resurface, and the truth stands naked. And only then can you choose to release, to forgive, to rebuild. There was a girl I met who lost her job and her partner in the same month. She was shattered. Everyone told her to keep moving, but she chose differently. She went silent. She moved back home. She disconnected from everything, social media, toxic friends, even TV. For months she sat with herself. She learned to cook again. She journaled every day. She cried until her chest stopped hurting. And when she returned to the world, she was unrecognizable. Not because she looked different, but because she'd healed. Her energy was pure. Her boundaries were solid. Her smile was real. You heal in isolation because that's where you hear your soul whisper the loudest. It tells you where you betrayed yourself. It reminds you what you used to love before you lost yourself. It holds up a mirror and says, you abandoned yourself while chasing people who didn't even care. And when that truth hits, it hurts. But it also liberates. You start cleaning out your mental closet. You start replaying what they did and start asking why you allowed it. You stop craving closure from others because you give it to yourself. That's the gift of isolation. It doesn't just heal the heart. It rewires your mind. It elevates your self-worth. It makes you your own safe space. Healing doesn't require a crowd. It requires courage. The courage to be alone. The courage to not post about your pain, but to process it privately. The courage to step away from the noise until your inner voice becomes louder than your fears. And when that voice says, I deserve better, you'll believe it. Not because someone else told you, but because you felt it in the quiet. You become emotionally independent when you stop making other people the source of your happiness, your confidence, your peace. It's when your world no longer shatters because someone didn't text you back or failed to show up for you. It's when you stop outsourcing your worth to other people's attention. Emotional independence doesn't mean you never feel lonely or you never need anyone. It means your emotional stability isn't tied to someone else's presence or absence. You know how to be there for yourself. You know how to hold your own heart. There was a woman I knew who was constantly waiting for her partner to compliment her, waiting for friends to reassure her, waiting for others to validate her dreams. And every time they didn't, she crumbled. Her self-worth dropped. Her confidence shook. Then one day, she stopped. She looked in the mirror and said, what if I stopped waiting? What if I gave myself everything I keep begging from others? That was the beginning. She started showing up for herself, bought herself flowers, celebrated her own wins, took herself on dates, and slowly she became the kind of woman who doesn't need anyone to choose her because she chose herself first. You realize people come and go, emotions rise and fall. But if you keep depending on someone else to fix you when you're broken, you will always remain a slave to their choices. Emotional independence is the quiet superpower of queens. It's what makes you unshakable. It's what keeps you grounded when life gets messy and unpredictable. Think of how often we say things like, he makes me happy, or she broke my heart. But the truth is, your happiness is yours. Your heart is yours. Nobody should have the power to ruin you emotionally unless you hand it to them. Emotional independence is saying, I can love you deeply, but I'll still be okay without you. That's not arrogance. That's inner strength. There's this beautiful moment in every strong woman's journey where she finally feels the shift. She's no longer crying on the bathroom floor over someone who couldn't even say sorry. She's not refreshing her phone, waiting for validation. She's out there chasing her goals, prioritizing her peace, creating her own joy. That's the kind of emotional independence that makes people look at you and go, damn, she doesn't need anyone, but she chooses who's worth her time. I knew a woman who used to get anxious when her boyfriend didn't text her for a few hours. Her mind would spiral. Did I do something wrong? Is he mad? Is he cheating? One day she had enough. She turned off her notifications, grabbed her journal, and wrote, why am I giving someone else this much control over my emotions? That night, instead of begging for attention, she gave herself attention. She cooked her favorite meal, watched her favorite movie, and fell asleep with peace in her heart, not fear. That night, she began to break the chain of emotional dependence. This kind of freedom, this emotional liberation, is rare because it takes self-awareness, it takes unlearning years of conditioning. We're taught to seek love outside, to chase connection, to make someone else our better half, but the truth is, you are already whole. And once you realize that, no breakup can destroy you, no rejection can break you, no absence can shake you. You begin to enjoy your own company. You cry, but you also wipe your own tears. You fall, but you rise with fire in your eyes. You stop expecting someone to save you, and instead you save yourself. That is the magic of emotional independence. It's when your emotions stop controlling you and you start mastering them. It's when you realize your happiness is not a gift someone gives you, it's a crown you place on your own head. Every single day, you start attracting the right people the moment you stop chasing the wrong ones. The moment you raise your standards and decide, I deserve better energy, deeper conversations, and connections that don't drain me. When you choose solitude over fake friendships, peace over chaos, and authenticity over popularity, that's when the right people begin to find you. Not because you're looking for them, but because you've become a magnet for those who vibe with your growth, not your wounds. There's something powerful that happens when you sit alone long enough to heal, reflect, and rebuild your energy. You stop begging to be understood by those who never listened in the first place. You stop performing just to be liked. You stop entertaining people who only show up when it's convenient for them. That's when your frequency changes. And when your frequency changes, I remember this girl who used to feel invisible in a room full of people. She tried so hard to fit in, laughing at jokes she didn't like, agreeing with things that didn't align with her, until one day she had enough. She said, why am I fighting to belong in spaces where I'm clearly not seen? She stepped back, sat in her silence. She started learning who she really was when no one was watching. She read books, traveled solo, took long walks with her own thoughts, and guess what? Slowly the energy around her began to shift. Strangers became soul friends. Opportunities started finding her, not because she was louder, but because her silence was finally honest. When you become whole on your own, you stop trying to complete yourself through others. You become the kind of woman who doesn't just attract attention, she attracts alignment. The kind of woman who walks into a room and doesn't shrink to make others comfortable. She glows with grace and standards, and that glow, that's what draws the right people toward her. Think about it. If you're constantly pouring from an empty cup, you'll attract people who only want to drink. But once you start filling your cup first, you'll attract people who come to add, not subtract. That's the beauty of healing alone. It filters your space. The users, the manipulators, the ones who only loved the broken version of you, they fade away. And in their place, come the ones who respect your boundaries. honor your energy, and celebrate your growth. There was a guy who always said yes to everything just to be liked. He feared being alone. He feared rejection. And because of that fear, he attracted people who took advantage of him. Colleagues who dumped their work on him, friends who disappeared in tough times, lovers who ghosted when things got real. But then one day he took a break. No calls, no parties, just him and his journal. He wrote, "I want relationships that don't need masks." That became his mantra. Slowly, the wrong ones started leaving. And the right ones, the kind who asked how he was really doing, who noticed his silence, who stayed consistent, they found him. Why? Because his vibe changed. You attract who you are, not who you pretend to be. So if you're constantly surrounded by chaos, ask yourself, what part of you still accepts it? Once you start loving yourself so fiercely that you refuse to tolerate anything less than respect and realness, you'll start drawing in people who match that love. People who don't get intimidated by your strength, but inspired. People who don't want to dim your light, but protect it. Energy doesn't lie. And when yours becomes solid, calm, rooted, you stop chasing. You simply be, and that becomes enough. You become the kind of person who doesn't need to be everywhere, because the right ones will always find you. Not by accident, but by alignment. Not because you were looking, but because you were glowing. It's in the stillness of being alone that purpose whispers to you. Not in the noise of the crowd, not in the endless scrolling or the constant opinions of others, but in the silence that most people are afraid to sit in. Because when you're truly alone, without distractions, without pretending, without wearing 100 masks to please the world, that's when the real questions rise to the surface. Who am I? Why am I here? What sets my soul on fire? You can't find your purpose in a place where you're constantly performing for acceptance. You can't find your passion in conversations that numb you. You have to step away, disconnect, not from the world, but from the parts of it that disconnect you from yourself. Purpose lives in the quiet, in the corners of your curiosity, in the echo of your own heartbeat, when you're no longer trying to be someone you're not. There was this girl who spent years trying to be everything for everyone. Perfect daughter, loyal friend, committed girlfriend. But in trying to meet everyone else's expectations, she lost her own identity. She felt empty, tired, used. One night she broke down and said to herself, "I don't even know who I am anymore." That night she decided to spend time alone. Not to isolate, but to discover. She unplugged from the noise and went inward. She picked up a paintbrush she hadn't touched in years. That brush led her to art therapy. That therapy led her to healing others. And suddenly what was once a hobby became a calling. She didn't find her purpose by chasing. It found her when she paused to breathe and listen. People fear being alone because they think it means something is wrong. But what if alone is exactly where you're meant to be for a while? What if isolation isn't punishment, but preparation? What if that discomfort you're feeling is not a void, but space being cleared for something bigger? Think about it. When you're constantly surrounded by people, your thoughts become entangled with theirs. Their dreams become your distractions. Their opinions drown out your intuition. But when you're alone, the fog lifts. The noise fades. And what's left? You. Just you. Raw, honest, present. And in that presence, you begin to hear the soft nudges of your soul. The forgotten dreams, the buried gifts, the fire you kept hiding to keep others warm. A young man I once knew spent all his time with friends, partying, laughing, doing what everyone else did. But late at night, after the laughter faded, he felt this haunting emptiness. So he took a trip, solo, no social media, no plans, just him, nature, and a notebook. That trip changed everything. For the first time, he wrote without fear, page after page. His thoughts became stories. Those stories became a blog. That blog turned into a book. All of that was inside him. But he couldn't hear it over the noise of fitting in. Purpose had been waiting. He just needed silence to hear its knock. Purpose isn't always loud. It doesn't always arrive with fireworks and applause. Sometimes it's a whisper saying, "Try this." It's a feeling in your chest that won't leave you alone. It's a tug at your heart every time you see something that deeply moves you. And when you follow it, step by step, your path unfolds. You don't need anyone else to validate your dreams. You don't need a crowd to begin. Some of the most powerful journeys begin in solitude. Some of the most world-changing ideas were born in quiet rooms, in journals no one read at first, in lonely nights that birthed revolutions. Being alone isn't the end of connection. It's the beginning of alignment. And alignment is where purpose lives. There's something wildly powerful about a person who doesn't explain herself to anyone, who walks into a room with silence but commands attention without saying a word. That's the kind of magnetism that only solitude can build. You become mysterious not by hiding who you are, but by no longer putting it all out there for everyone to consume. The more time you spend alone, the more whole you become. And wholeness is rare. That's why people are drawn to it. You see, in a world where everyone is oversharing, overcompensating, overproving, someone who is composed, quiet and centered becomes unforgettable. They start wondering, what's her story? Why does she seem so at peace? What does she know that I don't? That's the power of mystery. It's not about being secretive, it's about being selective. Selective with your time, your energy, your truth. I remember this woman who used to post every little thing online, what she ate, where she went, who she was with. She craved validation. Every like, every comment felt like approval, until one day she vanished from the feed. No updates, no selfies, just silence. People thought she was going through something, but what she was actually doing was becoming. She journaled, she healed, she stopped chasing attention and started cultivating self-worth. When she came back, she was unrecognizable. Not in looks, but in energy. She didn't need applause anymore, and because of that, everyone noticed her. She became magnetic, not because she was visible, but because she was valuable. Mystery builds curiosity, and curiosity creates connection, but not the shallow kind, the deep kind, the kind that makes people want to know you, not just look at you, the kind that draws quality souls, not surface level ones. And when you protect your energy by being alone, you begin to realize not everyone deserves access to your light. Not every conversation deserves your voice. Not every person earns your story. There was this man who always tried to impress others, loud, laughing, talking, constantly trying to be the center of attention. But when the lights went off, he felt unseen. Why? Because performing isn't presence. But one year, after a hard breakup and betrayal, he withdrew, not to sulk, but to reflect. He read, traveled, spent time watching sunrises instead of chasing people, and that solitude carved a new man. Quiet, confident, mysterious. Suddenly people leaned in when he spoke, because he didn't speak often, and when he did, his words meant something. He stopped trying to be interesting and became interested. That shift, that's power, and people can feel it. When you spend time alone, you learn how to respond instead of react. You learn to value your peace more than anyone's opinion. That kind of internal power is magnetic. You walk differently. You look people in the eye, not with need, but with knowing. Knowing who you are, what you carry. And that knowing, that's what pulls people toward you. Let them wonder where you've been. Let them ask why you're glowing. Let them guess what's changed. You don't owe anyone an explanation for your growth. You don't need to post every step of your evolution. Keep some things sacred. Keep some things just for you. Because when your life becomes less about performance and more about purpose, you rise above the noise. You become the calm in the chaos, the depth in the shallow, the enigma in a world of open books. That's mystery. That's magnetism. That's what being alone can do for you. Confidence becomes your default setting when you stop seeking validation from others and start finding it within yourself. When you spend time alone, you stop relying on external sources to tell you who you are, what you're worth, or how you should feel. The more you learn to stand on your own, the more you realize that no one else's approval is required for you to feel solid and sure of your place in this world. This is when your true confidence begins to rise. Not from arrogance, but from a deep understanding of your own value. Take the story of a woman I know who used to second guess herself constantly. She would walk into a room full of people, and the first thing on her mind was, what do they think of me? She'd spend hours after social events replaying every conversation, worried about what she said, how she said it, and whether or not people liked her. She was exhausted. But one day, something shifted. She decided to stop seeking everyone's approval. She spent time alone, reflecting, meditating, journaling, and learned to be okay with herself, flaws and all. Slowly, she started walking into those same rooms with no agenda other than being herself. And you know what happened? People started gravitating toward her. They noticed her calm confidence, her self-assuredness, and most importantly, her ability to be authentic without needing anyone to mirror her worth. Confidence became her default setting. Not because she was pretending to be someone else, but because she had finally accepted who she truly was. There's a profound shift that occurs when you stop doubting yourself. It's as if you suddenly realize that you are enough, exactly as you are. This shift doesn't come from external success or praise. It comes from internal validation. And the more you validate yourself, the less you care about seeking approval from others. You stop measuring your worth by the opinions of people who aren't aligned with who you are. It's a liberating feeling. You begin to move with purpose without the constant need for external affirmation. That's when confidence becomes effortless. Imagine a man who always struggled with his appearance. He'd compare himself to others, constantly feeling insecure about his body and looks. But one day, he decided to focus on what he could control, his mindset. He worked on accepting himself, flaws and all. He embraced the imperfections he once tried to hide. He started taking care of his health, not to impress anyone, but for his own well-being. Slowly, he started carrying himself differently. He didn't need anyone to compliment him to feel good about himself. He simply knew his worth. And that confidence wasn't just about how he looked, but how he felt in his own skin. He was no longer looking for validation outside. He had found it within himself. Confidence becomes your default setting. When you stop chasing after things to feel worthy, you no longer feel the need to prove yourself to anyone, because you already know your worth. The moment you embrace your unique qualities, your quirks, your story, your journey, that's when your confidence naturally radiates. It becomes a part of you. It becomes the energy you give off without even trying. And that kind of energy doesn't go unnoticed. People are drawn to it. People admire it, people respect it. I think about the times when you see someone walk into a room and you immediately notice them, not because of their clothes or their social media presence, but because of the way they carry themselves. There's an aura around them, a quiet strength. That is the kind of confidence you get when you stop seeking validation and start trusting yourself. Confidence is the ability to walk into any room and know that you belong there. It's the freedom of not being afraid to speak your mind, to be yourself and to stand up for what you believe in. When you stop measuring your worth by anyone else's standards, when you begin to look within yourself for the answers instead of external sources, you naturally begin to show up more confidently. And as that confidence becomes your default setting, you will start attracting people and opportunities that align with who you truly are. Confidence isn't just a trait you develop. It's a way of life that you create for yourself when you decide that you're enough, just as you are. Now, as we stand here at the precipice of our own potential, let's reflect on the power that lies within each of us. Every one of you, regardless of where you come from or the struggles you've faced, holds the key to a life filled with purpose, self-respect, and confidence. But that key is not handed to you on a silver platter. It is earned through the decisions you make when no one is watching, through the quiet moments when you choose to stand alone, and through the strength you build in solitude. Remember, the world is full of noise, full of distractions, full of people who will try to tell you who you should be, what you should do, and how you should feel. But the truth is, the only voice that matters is your own. You are the architect of your own life. Your destiny doesn't rely on the approval of others. It relies on your ability to trust yourself, to walk in your truth, and to boldly embrace your uniqueness. This is where true power lies. In those moments when you find yourself in the silence, that's when your true self rises. You were never meant to blend in. You were born to stand out. You were born to leave a mark, to be remembered for your courage, your authenticity, and your undeniable presence. When you embrace your own greatness, when you stop hiding behind fear or seeking validation, you begin to shine in ways you never thought possible. You become magnetic, powerful, and unstoppable. The universe is waiting for you to claim your space. There are no limits except the ones you place on yourself. Don't ever let anyone tell you that you can't achieve something, that you can't have the life you dream of. Don't let their doubts become your reality. As Eleanor Roosevelt once said, the future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams. It's your belief, your self-assurance, your commitment to your own purpose that will propel you to heights you've never imagined. And always remember, confidence is not the absence of fear. It is the ability to move forward despite it. Fear will always be there, whispering doubts, pulling you back. But courage is the decision to move forward anyway. To trust that the steps you take today are leading you toward a future full of limitless possibility. You are worthy, you are capable, and you are more than enough. But it's up to you to own that truth. It's up to you to walk into every room, into every opportunity, with the unwavering belief that you have something unique to offer. Don't wait for others to recognize your greatness. Stand tall, speak your truth, and let the world witness the power of your presence. You may feel alone at times, and that's okay. In fact, it's during those times of solitude that you will truly find yourself. You will tap into a reservoir of strength, creativity, and resilience that you didn't even know you had. Don't be afraid of being alone, for it is in solitude that you find clarity. It's in solitude that you heal, and it's in solitude that you reconnect with your purpose. To the women listening today, remember this. You are not a reflection of anyone else's opinions of you. You are a reflection of your own belief in your worth. When you start seeing yourself as the powerful, unstoppable force that you are, others will follow suit. And for every man in the room, know this. True strength comes not from domination, but from knowing yourself, respecting yourself, and standing firm in your convictions. Don't ever shrink to fit into spaces that were not made for you. Don't ever dull your shine to make others feel comfortable. You were born to soar. You were born to achieve the impossible. Your greatness is already inside of you. Now it's time to release it into the world. So step into your power, stand in your truth, and let the world marvel at the force of nature that you are. You are not here by accident. You are here for a reason. The world is waiting for you to step into your purpose. Your time is now. Remember, you don't need permission to shine. You don't need anyone's approval to be who you are meant to be. You already have everything you need to create the life of your dreams. All you have to do is believe in yourself and take that first step. The rest will follow. Now go forward with confidence, with courage, and with the unshakable belief that you are exactly where you need to be. Your destiny awaits.